Okay, so we're moving on to Cantaloupe Island, another jazz standard, and Ashkelon Volume 54 of Jamie Aebersold as well. And we're going to use a few different things on this one, but we're also going to, if you look at the music there, we're going to discuss key of the moment. So from concert pitch, the first 4 bars are in the key of F minor 7, which is 3 flats. Okay, so that's a Dorian sound. The next 4 bars are in the key of G flat, and that's the key C for D flat 7, which is a Mixolydian chord. And then the next line is in D minor 7. This is concert key, which is Dorian, and that'll be Dorian, so it's a 2nd degree in C. So this is the key of the moment. It's also the chord of the moment. Okay, so as you notice, if you look at the music, there's a different key signature for each 4 bars, representing the key signature would go with that chord. So essentially, when you're playing a chart or you're improvising, each chord theoretically would have a key signature. Okay, and the amount of keys that you travel through in any song would determine the difficulty of the song. So for the jazz lines, for the jazz workbook lines, I'm going to use the minor 7 line, that line, but then I'm going to use this line here from, this is in Caleb's key of B flat Mixolydian, so that would have 3 flats, and we're going to use the first 4 bars, actually the 3rd, 4th, 6th, and 7th, 3, 4, 5, 6 bar of the sound of that particular mode, which is so when I play the scale, it doesn't really, I don't really hear the color of the sound of the 3, the 7, the 6. So by making the line in the shape of piano voicing, I get that jazz sound rather than just the scale. What the heck do I do with that? But you know, in the book, that's all they can write out. So that's going to be on the D flat 7 concert. That's the second 4 bars. Okay, so we're going to demonstrate that and then move on to some other ways of making the sound of the chord. Okay, so now for the second part of this, we're gonna play some jazz lines, starting with a line by Sonny Rollins from called "The Theme from Alfie," followed by 2 different lines on a Mixolydian chord, one by Joel Fromm from a blues, and the other by Jerry Bergonzi from a solo one, Donna Lee. And then we're going to continue on with a Chris Potter line on a minor 7 chord, and then for the last 4 bars, we're going to do a minor 7 pentatonic line that Dexter Gordon plays on Watermelon Man. Okay, so we're going to now hear the jazz lines making the sound of these chords. So you ready to go? Okay, so now we're going to go through Cantaloupe Island, and we're going to play familiar lines from the Beatles. Now everyone's heard of the Beatles, whether you like them or not, and these songs you'll recognize them. And the idea is if it's a song I'm familiar with, I might be able to remember them better than if they're jazz lines, which are typically more complicated. And a word about this album by Michel Petrucciani called Conversation with Michel Petrucciani, and he talks about using quotes And what he's referring to is that, you know, he had done transcriptions, like 15 transcriptions of Wes Montgomery solos, and that's how he learned to improvise. He transcribed it, and he was able to have all these quotes, all this language be part of his playing. And that's how most everyone learns how to play, is through imitation. Okay, but he talks about at some point, well, I needed to make my own quotes. So in other words, the point is you imitate and then you innovate. You imitate the people you like, and you're trying to visualize and hear all this stuff. If you're reading it, you're not thinking and you're not hearing. Okay, and also these it helps if these are lines that I can sing, so that that's part of, if I sing, that's ear training. I'm not pressing any vowels down. So if I can sing some of these Beatles lines, that helps me to remember it. Okay, the idea when you improvise is everything is about hearing and visualizing what you're hearing, and then turning that into your own solo. So this time we're going to do 2 choruses of quotes by the Beatles, and then after that we're going to try to take our own solo. Now, after all of that, we're going to try to take our own solo, and we're expecting not really any wrong notes now, because our fingers, our ears, our mind have a grasp on the key of the moment we talked of. Each 4 bars is a different key, but it's also a different chord. Okay, so let's see how that goes. Excellent. So, with every song, there's usually, especially if you're playing by ear, there's always a section where you can't really hear that chord. And in this song, it's usually the Mixolydian chord, the second chord on the second 4 bars, which is in D flat, concert in B flat 7 for the alto and E flat 7 for a tenor, and that's typically where people would get off because they don't know what they're doing. They're just playing by ear. So as you could see that without preparation, Caleb never really played any wrong notes because his ears, his mind, his fingers were all attuned to these different chords, and getting seamlessly from one chord to the other is kind of the trick, which, you know, because you have to think ahead, and that's why if you have these melodies internalized and you have to think ahead to, okay, I'm coming up to the dominant 7, it's a different line, you're preparing yourself to be able to improvise. And of course, some might say that, well, it seems like a lot of repetition, and well, repetition is how you learn anything. And actually, I saw an interview with Michael Brecker, and he's talking about how he's working on some new lines. And he said, these new lines probably are not going to show up in my playing for a year. So he's going to be playing these lines for a year before they actually materialize themselves. So that, but you know, that's the kind of the key to learning, is to do a lot of repetition, and especially the goal is to take all this stuff and play it out of your head without reading it. Okay, because then you really know it. But so anyways, that's an exhibition by Caleb. Awesome job. Hasta luego.